I'm young Richard's grandfather, and he's interviewing me about my service in the war during World War II.
I'm Jack O'Donnell. I'm young Richard's granduncle, and I'm being interviewed for my part in the Second World War.
When were you drafted into the armed service?
I went in January 29th, 1944.
What branch of the service did you join?
I joined the Army Air Force.
When were you drafted into the armed service?
I was drafted in March of 1943.
What branch of the service did you join?
The United States Army.
What type of training did you have before you actually went into the war?
Well, we started out with basic training, 3 months, in Miami Beach, and from there we went to Texas to Aerial Gunnery School, and for several months, and after that we went out to California and became a crew for 10 men in a B-24 we were assigned to, and we had to train as a crew for maybe 4 or 5 months.
What were the weapons you became certified on?
I became certified on the .45 pistol, carbine rifle, and Thompson submachine gun. Oh, and of course took training on the dual 50 caliber machine gun that was attached to the nose of the B-24.
So, Uncle Jack, what type of training did you have before you actually went into the war?
Well, we had the basic training. Then we went into the tank warfare training. That was at Camp Connell, Kentucky. And later on, we went to Salina, Kansas, and had maneuvers.
What weapons were you certified on?
Well, you qualified on the Thompson submachine gun, the .45 caliber pistol, a rifle, a 30 caliber machine gun, and
How about your tank guns? Oh, I'm
well,
sorry.
that was a 30 caliber machine gun,
Oh, okay.
and a 75 millimeter cannon.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I shouldn't.
That's about it.
What was your rank?
Well, I started out as a private like everyone else, and then went up through the ranks of enlisted men, PFC, corporal, sergeant. I was ended as a sergeant. I didn't go any higher than that.
What was your job?
Well,
Private typical or no? Oh, sorry.
well, as a PFC, I was a loader in the tank. And then as a corporal, I was the gunner in the tank. Then as a sergeant, I was the tank commander. But a typical day, I can't say what a typical day was because every day was different. You want me to go on?
What's one of the, do you have any days that stood out in your mind?
Roll in too, I guess.
Yes, I guess. There are several days that stood out in my mind, and one is the one where we were caught up on the Moselle River, set down in the middle of a German bivouac, and we were attacked, and 4 of the 5 tanks that were up there were knocked out. I fortunately was able to get our tank out of there, out of harm's way. And I don't think I'll ever forget that day.
That's a good day.
So, Papa, what was your rank?
I was a staff sergeant. I started out when we went in the Army as a private, but we had no ranks that we rose above. We just, if you performed one service in the Air Force, it had a rank connected with it. And for the aerial gunner, it was staff sergeant, and that's what I was.
What was your job on the B-24?
Oh, I was the nose gunner, which is a turret in the front of the plane that revolved around to, well, return fire from fighters if they appeared, enemy fighters.
Describe a typical day.
Well, a typical day, they, as your Uncle Jack said, changed, but typically we'd get up at 5 a.m., go out to the physical training field for several hours, return and go to aerial gunnery schools for the rest of the day, learning how to shoot it and how to take it apart and fix it and so forth.
Live.
How long were you in the war?
I was in the war 2 years.
Were you ever injured during the war?
No, fortunately I wasn't. Although I was not injured during the war, Rich, we returned from a mission August the 6th, I believe it was, 1945. And as usual, we went to a movie and then suddenly all the air raid sirens went off and we all rushed out of the movie. It was an outdoor movie, but nevertheless, we all rushed and I ran into the street and a truck coming down the street thought it was an air raid, so he put out all his lights and I didn't see him. And he hit me and I was in the hospital for over 2 weeks with numerous concussion and numerous bruises and what have you. And as I was saying, the war was over because the atomic bomb had been dropped that day, and we saw the mushroom cloud coming from it, and we realized that yes, the war was over. And that was,
Where were you stationed at that time?
we were on Okinawa.
Uncle Jack, how long were you in the war?
I was in for 3 years.
Were you ever injured during the war?
Well, I wasn't wounded, but at one point there, we did get a bad batch of ammunition. And when I was loading the gun, it exploded in the chamber. And it threw me against the side of the tank, and I couldn't hear for about 3 days. I had a ruptured eardrum and powder burns all over me. But that's the extent of my injuries.
What were some of your fears during the war?
Fear of dying, I guess, was the biggest. And, of course, fear of being seriously wounded, coming back a cripple.
Did you get any awards?
Well, typical awards, I suppose. The
No, there.
European Theater of Operation Award, the Victory Medal, the German Occupation Medal,
Good
Good
conduct.
Conduct Medal, and what else? What's this one? Oh, incidentally, the European Theater Medal
It's World War II.
had 4 battle stars. That's 4 different campaigns.
Which could be in different
They
areas.
were-
right?
Northern France, Central Europe, the Rhinelands, and the Ardennes.
Did you lose anybody close to you in the war?
Well, I lost a lot of buddies that were in the company, but my immediate buddies, there was four of us all together, and we all came back alive.
During World War II, what parts of the world were you in?
Well, I was in England, France, Germany, Luxembourg, Belgium, and Austria.
Papa, what were some of your fears?
Well, there were many fears being up in an airplane, but being out over the ocean, our missions would take us 500 miles across the ocean. And going down in the ocean was a big fear, and of course, just being killed would be the greatest fear.
Did you get any awards during the war?
Yes, I had some. I had several theater of operation awards, such as the China-Burma, the air offensive of Japan, the Ryukyus, which is Okinawa and various islands. I had an air medal, which was given for a certain amount of combat missions you had. You had to have 15 or so to get the air medal. And that's all, that's about it.
Did you lose anybody close to you when you were in the war?
No, I did not.
Okay, what parts of the world were you in? Like you flew over and everything like that and stuff.
Well, we, of course, were in several states before we went overseas. And then we flew over to Hawaii, and from there to Guam. And we were stationed on Guam for several months, and we flew missions to various islands during our stay there. And then we went on to Okinawa. We flew to Okinawa and flew several missions over Japan, Nagasaki, and Hiroshima before the B-29 dropped the atomic bomb, which ended the war.
How many people were on the airplane with you?
There were 9 others and myself, which made a crew of 10.
Were you in the airplane with the same people every time you flew a mission?
Yes, it was always the same.
Did you become close friends with anybody while you were in the war?
Yes, while we were in the war and flying missions, we became very close to one another. And it lasted for some time after the war, and then by the distance we lived from one another, we didn't get to see each other very often.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for agreeing to this interview and for your service to our country.
Oh, I enjoyed it very much, Rich. Thank you.
Uncle Jack, this is the ending segment of our interview. How many people were in the tank with you?
There were 4 other people in the tank with me. 5 altogether in the tank.
Were you in the tank with the same people every time you went into a battle?
Well, as long as you stayed with that tank crew, you were. But sometimes they would get injured or wounded, and then they would leave, and somebody else would come in, a replacement. So it changed from time to time.
Did you become close friends with anybody while you were in the war?
Yes, I became very close friends with 3 other guys, and we still keep in touch. At least 2 of them did. One of them is dead. We have a reunion every year, and it's usually in maybe Uniontown, Pennsylvania, Erie, Pennsylvania, or sometimes here in the East Coast.
Well, thank you for agreeing to this interview and for your service to our country.
You're quite welcome. It's not very often that kids your age ask about World War II.
So, are these pictures of B-24s?
Yes, this is the picture of them over the Pulaski oil fields. That was a very dangerous target to go over, as you can see. And it was strictly B-24s that did it. There were several planes shot down and many of the men were prisoners of war.
Is this where you were stationed? Like,
Yes,
this is where you were?
I was in the nose there, but not on this particular picture, but that was the position I held in the airplane, yes.
Along with the medals my Uncle Jack brought, he brought two journals, Battalion Journal and
Company
the
journal.
Company Journal. He's going to talk about the Company Journal and the Battalion Journal.
This is a log that the company clerks keeps every day. This is the official, oh, not yet. This is the official log of the 702nd Tank Battalion, taken out of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C.